Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name is Eric Carey. I'm Executive Director of the Bahamas National Trust. Not the first choice for MC. I'm a stand-in because clearly nobody would give me a mic with no clear guidelines. But here we are. We'd like to welcome you to this important landmark conference. I think it's going to be a wonderful day. And we will start out this morning properly by inviting Mr. Delrico Bonamy from Cobus, who will bring the opening prayer.
Morning. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing all the participants here today. We thank you for all of our blessings, including the beautiful islands of the Exumas. We ask that you allow us to have a more than productive day and that our work be in your favor. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Next to lead us, thank you very much. Next to lead us in our national anthem, we will have Ms. Myra Ferguson, who's also a student here, College of the Bahamas.
Morning. Lift up your head to the rising sun, Bahamaland. March on to glory, your bright banners waving high. See how the world marks the manner of your bearing. Pledge to excel through love and unity, pressing onward, march together to a common loftier goal. Steady sunward, though the weather hide the white and treacherous shoal. Lift up your head to the rising sun, Bahamaland, till the road you've trod lead unto your God. March on, Bahamaland.
Thank you. Please be seated, everybody. As you would read in your program, this forum marks the beginning of a multi-year project entitled The Sustainable Future for the Exumas, Environmental Management, Design, and Planning. This is a collaboration between the Government of the Bahamas, the Bahamas National Trust, and the Harvard Graduate School of Design. It is indeed a landmark opportunity for us as a country to seriously think about where we take these fragile islands. The responsibility that for setting conditions that are going to exist 100 years from now rest with us in forums like this. And so this isn't going to be a plan. I was in a meeting last week with the DPM, and you know, he doesn't like plans that sit on the shelf. He made that very clear. And he doesn't involve himself in useless planning exercises. So I don't think he would be here today if with us if he didn't think this was a very serious and important exercise. I'd like to establish some protocol by acknowledging the Honorable Brave Davis, our Deputy Prime Minister, Member of Parliament for Cat Island. We're not going to argue about Eleuthera versus Cat Island today, sir. You also have Dr. Earl DeVoe, former Minister of Environment. And Mrs. DeVoe, welcome. We have the president of the Bahamas National Trust, Mr. Neil McKinney, the president of the College of the Bahamas, Dr. Betsy Boze, and we have the dean himself, Dean Mohsen Mostafavi, who is the dean of the Harvard Graduate School of Design. We have senior government officials, including Chris Russell, Director of Forestry, Gordon Mader, Director of Housing. I saw Mr. Curtis from the Department of Environmental Health Services, and a number of Eleanor Phillips from the Nature Conservancy, and Chris Maxey from the Cape Luther Institute, the Island School, Lingape, and the team from the Bahamas National Trust. Mr. Monka from Cat Island, my former headmaster at Government High, and I think I only got in trouble once, so we'll leave that at that. But we would like to welcome you all to this important conference, and we would like to invite. First, I'd give a brief introduction. The Honorable Philip Edward Brave Davis is an accomplished attorney, parliamentarian, philanthropist, and a family man. He's a senior partner in the law firm Davis & Co. and is considered one of the leading advocates in the country. In the recent general election, he regained his seat as Member of Parliament for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador. He presently serves as our Deputy Prime Minister of this Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and he's also the Minister of Works and Urban Development. Committed to bringing about positive change in the Bahamas, DPM Philip Brave Davis is determined to ensure that his story of success becomes a common theme for all Bahamians. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stand and welcome our Deputy Prime Minister. You can make that big step. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Morning, please be seated. To my former colleague, the Honorable Dr. Leveau, and his lovely wife, Countess Beatrice, Neil, my good friend Erith, I'm glad to see you here. I'd asked them to ensure that you at least have a little part to play in my quest to ensure that the Bahamas' future is sustained. To all of you here present, Dr. Mustafa, and all of you who here on this, I think, second convening of a forum on a sustainable future for Exuma. I am very pleased to share a few thoughts with you this morning at this forum, which is co-sponsored by the Bahamas National Trust, the Graduate School of Design of Harvard University, and the Government of the Bahamas. I note present here today as well the Director of Public Works, Don Canton, who of course has a responsibility to ensure that our development is sustainable. I wish to join with the planners in expressing appreciation to Dr. Boze, President of the College of the Bahamas, and her team for accommodating this forum. As we all know, there is so much that goes into organizing a successful event, and especially one which involves so many sponsors and participants. Each has to be satisfied that the event represents the best that is possible. I have every confidence that we shall all come away from this forum being grateful to the organizers, to the presenters, and panel members for their contribution to what we all know is of paramount importance. That is to say, the protection and development of all essential elements of what makes us a geographic location deserving of protection, of a people worthy of the effort to protect and enhance our homeland, and of the effort to ensure that what we bequeath to our descendants clearly confirms that we care for ourselves and for them. As some of you might know, my father was a Cat Island man, but you may not know that my mother is an Exuma woman. My cousins and friends from Exuma have cautioned me to ensure that a casual error, made, I'm sure, with the very best of intentions, is corrected. And I noticed the sign when I came in, without doing any damage to the wonderful efforts of the team responsible for the work done so far, as to the future efforts by this team in crafting a sustainable future to Exuma. And Red Smith will recognize this. Good to see you, Red. You might have heard the last phrase, a sustainable future for Exuma. It is this which my cousins and friends wanted me to assist in correcting. When Lucayans lived in Exuma, they had at least one name for the chain. When Europeans sailed through after the Lucayans were exterminated, they declared names for the islands and keys to aid the trips that followed. Finally, after having had several names, the authorities in the then British colony of the Bahama Islands settled on Exuma in 1793, when Georgetown was established as the capital. The colonial governor at the time named the capital Georgetown in honor of his sovereign King George III. During the 1950s, after being discovered by American yachtsmen as a most wonderful location for cruising, vacations, and because of its 365 keys, they started referring to them in yachting guides as the Exumas, which the predecessor for the Ministry of Tourism picked up. But this beautiful group of islands and keys remain Exuma, which includes the Exuma Keys, Great Exuma, and Little Exuma. Many are greatly pleased when their island home is properly identified as Exuma. Not to stir up another debate. Not to stir up another debate as I look at my good friend and constituent Eris. And I invite you to join me, therefore, in this effort to project both the natural and historical history of Exuma. Just last week, I met with the chairman and senior staff of the Antiquities, Monuments, and Museum Corporation, and later the executive management team of the National Trust. Their effort was to brief me on opportunities and challenges facing their respective organizations on the islands which I represent in Parliament, Cat Island, Rum Cay, and San Salvador. We, of course, also addressed their interests in the overall national context. The Political Directorate of the Bahamas enjoys a respectful relationship with both organizations and recognize how valuable their ongoing work is to the future of the Bahamas. We, together, acknowledge the ongoing need to help citizens embrace the concept of ownership of our natural environment in the historical context, as well as those things of value which have crafted by people over the ages. I submit that this is why your work is so very important. Your approach is scholastic objectivity. You seek to serve the best which research offers. Our Bahamas is special. In our borders within Exuma and Eleuthera, as well as Andros and San Salvador, we are just beginning to learn about natural life form, Stromatolites, which stretches back over 3.5 billion years. Stromatolites were critically important for creating the essential environment for subsequent air-breathing life forms. Yes, as I said, 3.5 billion years. Our natural marine environment provides the environment for its continued existence. Within our borders is an island where the first recorded and continual connection between Europeans and the Aboriginal Caribbean Americans took place. We are the location in the Americas where the first recorded Christian service of Thanksgiving took place. We have these jewels of islands and the natural flora and fauna which inhabit the surface and underwater realms. We have our history, natural and cultural, some of it good and some bad. What we have in spades is ambition for better. It is a focus on learning, a commitment to excellence, complemented by hard work, which will craft our success going forward. The commitment of all involved in this forum, is but one more example to people committed to hard work and excellence, producing a result which brings quality to so many. Thank you all for your love and respect for the Bahamas, for your dedication, and for your scholarship. I thank you. Exuma and Exumians thank you, and the Bahamas will be the better for it all. Thank you very much.
Well, the DPM has spoken, and as we plan for a sustainable future for Exuma, we'd like to thank him for those inspiring words. I'd like to apologize in advance. The DPM won't be with us for the entire day, as interesting as it is. I know he has another commitment that he may leave shortly for, but thank you very much, sir. This forum obviously is an important discussion forum. It is not, I know, I've been approached by any number of persons who assumed because they saw Harvard that it meant that they were going to bring from the cold in Cambridge that we experienced last week full force, a process that they would just sit on top of us and just produce something that then goes forward. That is clearly, as you interact with this team, jingle bells. As you interact with this team, you will realize that that is not the process intended at all. The process is a discussion with stakeholders. The experts sit amongst us and also are in communities in the Exumas and Cat Island and throughout the archipelago. And these are the people who will inform this process. Remember, we're building something for their future and for their grandchildren, and so they have to be involved in this process. So do not be intimidated by the great Harvard. Remember, many years ago, we sent them which was at that time their largest gift, several tons of Brazilito wood that they sold, and they used to purchase a building that became an important residence for students and for study. So they should be intimidated by us as they sometimes are. So just to set that, it's a process that Harvard intends to be involved in and to provide advice and to help with a process of research, but definitely not to determine the outcome. The outcome gets determined by us. And so it's very clear as we go forward with this discussion that really restarts today and continues for a couple of years from now, that at the end we'll have a process that we all have developed, and therefore it'll be easier for us all to buy into. So I'd like to invite us this time our host, Dr. Betsy Boze. Dr. Boze is the president of the College of the Bahamas, previously serving as the CEO of Kent State University and as a senior fellow at the American Association of State Colleges and Universities. She earned a PhD in business administration from the University of Arkansas, majoring in marketing with minors in economics and sociology. Dr. Boze plays a major role in the national higher education system of our country, where she works on higher education policies and alternative revenue streams for public colleges and universities. So please welcome at this time Dr. Betsy Boze.
Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, other dignitaries and distinguished guests, College of the Bahamas community, friends of the college, all welcome. And good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome you today to this important forum on a sustainable future for Exuma. I'm going to have to practice saying that. On moving to the Bahamas, I quickly learned that there were at least two questions that were best left unanswered. Which is my favorite Junkanoo group? And which island do I like best? The Bahamas has many talented Junkanoo groups, and for those who are visiting, we'll explain later if you don't know that already, and even more breathtakingly beautiful islands, each with a unique culture and a unique ambience. But if I had to pick, the islands and keys of Exuma would be among the contenders. The college has had a presence in Georgetown, Exuma, for almost 20 years. In 1994, 20 women petitioned the college for a program to earn an associate's degree in office management. Jennifer Cattell was appointed as the coordinator of the COB Exuma Center. Local high school teachers were recruited to teach evening classes. Faculty from COB went on weekends to teach. And complimentary accommodations were provided by the Peace and Plenty Hotel for the faculty members. In 1998, after 4 years of studying part-time, the 20 women completed their degrees. Today, with the assistance of the Exuma Foundation, COB Exuma offers courses in college prep, math, English, computer literacy, and other academic and vocational courses. In October, our college council held its monthly meeting in Georgetown for the first time, meeting with alumni and island administrators and highlighting the importance of Exuma to the Bahamas and the College of the Bahamas. The College of the Bahamas is committed to driving national development and to economic and environmental sustainability. The college is one of only 5 international signatories to the College and University President's Climate Commitment to reduce our footprint and to integrate sustainability and climate neutrality into our curriculum and our co-curriculum. We also added an addendum to that signature, and that was about the importance of climate change to small and developing island nations. Through our Small Island Sustainability Program, we are seeking to develop a generation of leaders that understand the importance of appropriate policies and structures to support environmental sustainability. To paraphrase from Tom Friedman's Hot, Flat, and Crowded, this is not just about developing new sources of electrical power. This is about developing new sources of national power. The art of sustainable living is the ability to support communities today without jeopardizing the environment for tomorrow. As I welcome you to this Sustainable Exuma Public Forum, I reflect on the 3 pillars that sustainable development and this forum are built on. First, the sociocultural issues. You must understand the society and the culture to move forward. But this also includes the governance, the participatory systems for expression of opinion. The sociocultural issues must include the development of policies and laws, the selection of governments, the forging of consensus, and the resolution of differences. Second, the respect for and protection of our natural resources. We live in a fragile archipelagical nation. Our economy and our livelihoods depend on these natural resources. We must raise awareness about the importance of their resources, the fragility of our natural physical environment, and the effects on our human activity. We must have a commitment to factoring environmental concerns into our policy decisions. It is here that the mission of the College of the Bahamas and the National Trust and the important work that they're doing clearly intersect. The third part is the economy. Part of the college's mission is a commitment to being an engine for national development, and with that commitment comes a sensitivity to the limits and the needs for purposefulness in our economic growth. We must develop meaningful and well-paying jobs for Bahamians, jobs that are both economically and environmentally sustainable. We must be attentive to economic development's impact on society and the environment, with a commitment to reducing personal and societal levels of consumption out of concern for both the environment and for social justice. These elements are the foundation for ongoing and meaningful change. Human society is in constant movement. The Bahamas and other small island developing nations must live with the consequences of lifestyle choices and policy decisions often made elsewhere. We cannot maintain the status quo, but through purposeful discourse like this forum today, consider the direction and the implications of change. 2 weeks ago, we had the privilege of hosting Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., who spoke to us about climate change. At that time, I shared the parable of the frog in the pot of water. The story is that the frog jumps into a pot of boiling water and immediately recognizes the danger and jumps out. But the same frog, according to this parable, if it jumps into a pot of lukewarm water that is being slowly heated, the frog will simply stay in the water until it's too late. I had the privilege of attending a visit at the Island School recently, and at the Cape Eleuthera Institute, I saw a similar study being conducted, only with fish. In this case, the question was, will the fish stay in the tank and be heated until it can no longer survive, or will it transverse a small area into a tank with predators? Some choice to make. Could our fate be similar to the frogs or the fishes? It may be, unless we recognize the impending danger. The solution is environmental education and research. We must position the Bahamas to better manage our environment through design and planning. I welcome our colleagues from the Harvard School of Design as they help us position ourselves for sustainable growth and development for both Exuma and the Bahamas. As Bahamians, we must begin to change our mindsets, our attitudes, and our behaviors towards the environment. In addition to tourism, we must reduce our dependency on imported food. We must consciously design agricultural areas with diverse, stable, and resilient ecosystems. We must harmoniously integrate our landscape and our people, providing food, shelter, energy, and materials in a sustainable manner. We must humanize the way that we frame, talk about, and promote environmental education. We must push for deeper economic, cultural, and social shifts in environmental education. It's my hope that this forum on a sustainable Exuma becomes a model for land use planning and management which can be adopted throughout the length and breadth of the Bahamas. We here at the College of the Bahamas are committed to doing our part to educate our students and the wider Bahamas to become sustainable agents of change for a better and safer environment. Education has a key role to play in empowering individuals to become societal and environmental advocates, to make informed choices, to model sustainable practices. Thank you, and enjoy the forum.
Thank you very much, and again, thank you for having us at this wonderful facility that I know was built to hold fora like this and encourage dialogue. I'd like to acknowledge and welcome Mr. Renwood Wells, Member of Parliament, and Paul Seck. He had an earlier commitment, but he still made it here. Thank you very much for coming, sir. And also our distinguished Sandy McTaggart, one of our distinguished landowners in Exuma Keys Land and Sea Park. And certainly, I think we've had 1,000 conversations about sustainable planning for the Exumas. And I know I've not been able to deliver, but we're still working on it. And I think today, Sandy takes us further along on that path. And I think we'll have some good stuff coming out of this process. So welcome. And I also neglected to acknowledge Mr. Ezra Kemp. I'm sure he's here. He was here earlier. Who is the chief counselor for the Black Point District. I know he was here earlier. There he is. Yes, stand. Because it really is about the sustainable future for these communities, whether mainland or certainly the Keys of Exuma. And so, we've had many discussions with the Black Point community about relationships between Black Point and the Bahamas National Trust and the Exuma Park. And many of those discussions, I think, have taken on a very positive turn recently. And I think this forum and this process is going to be important in articulating, identifying, and then coming up with crafting solutions that come out of the communities to help us make sure that we meet your needs as well. So thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I'd like to call at this time my boss, the chairman of the board, the president of the Council of the Bahamas National Trust, Mr. Neil McKinney. Neil comes from a long line of BNT I used to use the word pedigree, but you all might confuse that. But definitely he is a bona fide BNT, born and bred Bahamas National Trust, and I don't think becoming president could have escaped him even if he wanted to. His grandfather was a founding member. His father is a founding member and also a past president. Neil is severely committed to the environment. We don't pay him much at the BNT for his role. It stays at a constant zero. And hopefully the economy doesn't decline so we don't have to, in fact, he actually pays us. Let me correct that. But Neil has a strong passion for especially our marine resources. And we just launched this week a national conservation campaign. And Jared Dillard, where are you? Jared Dillard is leading that effort to address the sustainability of conch. So we're talking about natural resources, cultural resources, it's all intertwined. And Neil has been a strong advocate since he became the president for the Bahamas National Trust, showing more leadership and support to the Department of Marine Resources and other agencies to protect our marine resources. So I'd like to call at this time Mr. Neil McKinney, President of the Bahamas National Trust.
Thank you, Eric. That was a very kind introduction. He did used to talk about my pedigree, and I told him that's what they did at the Kennel Club, so he's actually changed the introduction, so thank you for that. Good morning. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here. Protocol's being established, so I'm going to dispense with that and just say that it's a great privilege and a wonderful opportunity today to be a part of this symposium. And for the Bahamas National Trust to be working with the Harvard Graduate School of Design and the government of the Bahamas and the College of the Bahamas is I think, I don't know if it's unique, but it's certainly a very special symposium for us, and we hope to make every opportunity of this and to bring great to see benefits flow forth out of this, because it is we believe it's an extremely important part of our national development planning. Far too often things just happen here and people say, why did that happen? And the answer is there wasn't any planning, and we've reached a stage in our development where we really can't just let things occur. We do need to plan for the future, and so this is so important. It's an old maxim about those people who fail to plan to fail. We've all heard that. And unfortunately, that is happening in our family islands far too often. On many or most of the islands, the population is declining, not because there's anything wrong with the islands, but it's because there are no jobs. There is no economic activity, and people leave those islands and they come to New Providence to look for work. Any of us would do the same thing. And of course, so what happens is the islands or the settlements shrink, and as they shrink, we become more and more crowded here in New Providence, and the settlements in some ways become less and less sustainable, simply because there are those who remain are the very young, and typically the grandparents taking care of the children. And if we're going to have a sustainable future on the islands, that's a trend that we need to reverse. And perhaps something can come out of this that will help us with it. This workshop is an opportunity to address some of those issues and to start to describe some of the necessities to sustain small settlements. I don't know all of the numbers, but I saw in reading some of the material here that Black Point has approximately 230 people. I know that Crooked Island has about 240 people. Theoretically, you could take a lot of these small settlements and fold them into New Providence, and we wouldn't really see the difference of another 1,000 or 2,000 people. But the people of the settlements might not be quite so happy with that. And so we need to address that and see what we can do to sustain them. And some of those things that are obviously of key importance are potable water, education, medical facilities, and economic activity, to name a few. And of course, there's a great challenge in how do you can't put a massive hospital in every little settlement. It's clearly not feasible. And all of these problems, they present how do you manage these small areas in a rational sense and still provide the basic necessities for the people who live there. And then at the same time, we need to understand the effect that a growing settlement, as opposed to a declining settlement, would have on the environment, and to decide what we wish to preserve. As an example, far too often, not just in the islands, here in New Providence too, mangroves are filled in without permission, and that happens on an almost daily basis. You drive by somewhere and you see someone's taken a D8 and they've pushed into an area, and that mangrove is a little less than it used to be. And sooner or later, you've lost a juvenile marine nursery. You've lost what was perhaps a potential ecotour in terms of providing jobs for people in the islands. And of course, you've lost a very valuable hurricane buffer as well. And so one very simple act can actually have multiple effects, none of which we particularly like. To give you an example of just how fragile some of our terrestrial life is, I was down in Exuma, I think it was in Exuma, a couple of weeks back, and I was with a botanist. And we were walking by it was a palm that we would use for thatch to weave. And I said to the guy, how old is this? And it was about 2 feet taller than me. And he said, well, it's really hard to tell because the soil, this is mainly sand, and we don't know if there's earth underneath for nutrients or whatever, but the soil here is very fragile. And he said, certainly at least 50 years old, probably 75, and could be 100. And so the point I'm trying to make here is that when we clear areas, most people do not understand how long it took for the vegetation to catch itself and to grow. And one of the problems we do have with top and thatch in this country is if you go to the places that use it, you'll find there's very little top and thatch around there, and that's because we are harvesting it in a manner that is not sustainable. People from Black Point would not be traveling 19 miles to the Exuma Park to try to get top or thatch if it was closer. And the reason it's not closer is it's being harvested. And we need to find a way to make that so that the thatch can come back, which may take 50 or 75 years, but at least let's find a way to do something like that and to deal with it and to manage it on a sustainable basis. And I use that as one example of just how fragile our natural flora and fauna are. Most of our island communities rely on the marine environment for a significant part of their food and also for their income. It is crucial that these resources are properly managed, or the time will come when the settlements are no longer able to rely on the sea and its bounty for their everyday living. The price of fish already tells us that this resource is no longer as abundant as it used to be. And again, I'm going to use another example here of management. And I already told this story this has a 2 on it. For those of you who are at number 1, apologies, you've heard this before. For those of you who weren't, I just like to use this as an example of the fragility of things that we think are so abundant. At the previous conference or symposium, I mentioned the demise of the passenger pigeon. And without going into all the detail that I did then, I'm still going to reference it and tell you that there were estimates back in the early 1800s. There were probably 5 billion passenger pigeons. Obviously a limitless, endless resource. And people market hunted them, they shot them, they filled barrels with them and sent them east for food. And from the early 1800s, come 1914, the passenger pigeon was extinct. And that tells us that sustainability is not just about the lack or the abundance, but it's about the management of a resource. And so I think of conch and crawfish and grouper and our marine resources and put that in that context. And it's something that we definitely have to consider. And we need to ask ourselves, are we as a people willing to manage our resources properly? Not taking all that we can, knowing that we must leave enough for tomorrow? Can we instill a culture of planning, which is too often lacking within our nation? In other countries, national parks are protected by local people or communities who live nearby. This is because jobs as tour guides or selling souvenirs or paintings or other economic activity can provide income to the community, and user fees are redirected back to the communities. And they see a direct correlation between the health of the environment and the income provided. Can we bring that concept to the Bahamas and make it work? Eric is motioning at his watch here. I did have a little more to say, but I'm going to stand down from this. I do want to say that we certainly need to use or consider the use of new technologies to combine them with the way we live so that we can enjoy the benefits of science without losing our culture and traditional lifestyles. And a specific example of that might be something like reverse osmosis, where we could use and produce potable water in settlements. Some places have rainwater, some places have groundwater. We're looking at climate change and there might not be enough rain. Groundwater, there was a spill up in Governor's Harbor the other day. People were trying to steal diesel or some fuel. If the groundwater comes contaminated in a small community, what are you going to do? And so we do need to be considering science as a backup or a third leg so that we do not come to some dead end and then suddenly find that a whole community needs to move because of one significant change. These items are just some of the things that are important. It might be worth considering how do you actually define sustainability. What I think of as sustainable and you think of as sustainable might be different things, and it might be worth having a discussion as to what actually sustainability means and how we define it. And then my last comment is that although today we are talking about Exuma, any solutions that we have here or ideas that we come up with need to be practical enough and flexible enough that we can roll them out to meet the needs and requirements of other small island communities here in the Bahamas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. DPM, thank you very much. We know you have a busy day today, but you'll get full reports, and I know you'll be involved in this process. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we will call from Harvard, Dean Mohsen Mostafavi, Dean of the Harvard Graduate School of Design. And his bio is 18 pages long, but we've condensed it to one paragraph. An architect and educator, Mohsen Mostafavi is Dean of the Harvard Graduate School of Design and the Alexander and Victoria Wiley Professor of Design. He was formerly the Gale and Ira Jukia Dean of the College of Architecture, Art and Planning at Cornell University. Previously, he was the chairman of the Architectural Association of the School of Architecture in London. Dean Mostafavi is an author and editor of many books, including Structure as Space, 06, Ecological Urbanism, 2010, Implicate and Explicate, 2011, and In the Life of Cities and Instigations, 2012. The Dean is, as we learned last week, as he comes, has completely transformed the Harvard Graduate School of Design. He's done wonders there, and we're really privileged, honored to have you with us, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Eric. Thank you, thank you so much. Thank you all so very much for being here, for your hospitality. Eric, for your kind words. We're running a little bit late, And I am very conscious of the fact that that Rochelle is very concerned that all the food that's outside is reached in the next few minutes before we start actually our session at 10 o'clock this morning, because I know that that there are wonderful things that are ahead of us. Obviously, like everybody else, I'd like to thank the DPM for his support. Also, getting to this stage, we've had a lot of conversations with a number of other people from the government, including the Minister of the Environment, Ken Dorset. I want to thank President Boze for your support and allowing us to be here. P.S. Hicks, P.S. Johnson, who couldn't be here, Neil McKinney, Eric, who has been really an incredible champion of this project. And really, I very much want to thank the former Minister of the Environment, El DeVoe, who really championed the beginning of this project, for being here. And of course, Mrs. DeVoe, the former Prime Minister, Ingram. The list is very long. Of course, our speakers and moderators, and the people at the GST, Gary Doherty, and all the team of the people who have been working on this particular project. I would really want to thank everybody, but then I'll spend my whole time just thanking people. Just to give you a little bit of a context, as Neil referred to, as it's clear from this material, this is a project that has been going on for a little while. This stage of it is really very recent, and really, again, it's been made possible with the incredible support of Countess Beatrice von der Schulenburg. The project at this particular stage is really a multi-year research project that involves multiple constituencies. It's very important, as Eric said, that we recognize that your participation, the participation of communities, the participation of the government, the participation of local experts, which is really the focus of the work here today, and of course the participation of international experts are some of the key components of the project. So it's actually everybody working together that will make this a success. In terms of our role, we see our role, as Eric said, as both learning and hopefully contributing to the project and the conversation, and a project that we see as having multiple moments of impact, multiple moments of realization, as opposed to a multi-year project that then has a conclusion at the end. This diagram basically shows you that the first phase of this project involves fieldwork. The second phase is really about proposals, making things, doing things on site, and the last phase is about the concepts of codification, zoning, really to see how the government can also then be much more systematically engaged, having learned from the knowledge of the communities and really the examples of the kinds of projects that are realized. This is the idea of the fieldwork, integration, and codification. Here is really to say that the Exumas, or the Exuma, as the Deputy Prime Minister suggested we should call. In fact, I believe that it's really a movement from the Exumas to Exuma. In some ways, that tension from the multiplicity of multiple islands, multiple stakeholders, multiple interest groups, towards the notion of certain kinds of unity and community is part of that particular process. From the beginning, it's very difficult to speak of a singularity of Exuma as something which is already formed as a totality. So we very much take the words to heart, but see those as part of the process that involves, for example, these are some of the conditions that we have identified, that we have really the important local communities. We have private landowners, we have government agents and NGOs, and we have really the importance of water and tourism. There may be many other criteria. This is where we would like you to help us. But these are some of the conditions that have to be part of this this very important process of engaging many people and understanding really what the local community want. Listening to the local community has been for us a key component of this project. Obviously, it's also important to recognize that as has already been stated, that while the focus is on the Exuma chain of islands, actually we want to also have a certain set of projects or experiences that are learning from other places but can also have replication applicability for other places. This is already started with the concept of conferences and discussions and has resulted in a report that is obviously in front of many of you, and we would very much like you to give us feedback on that. A component of this project in terms of implementation is really getting multiple groups to engage with each other, such as executive education programs, for example, at Harvard, but also here in Nassau, in other parts of the Bahamas, a program of scholarships, career discovery. Basically, what we would love to have are young Bahamians who come to, for example, our career discovery program, which is for a few weeks during the summer, and participate and really see whether we can also be involved in training the next generation of professionals, Bahamian professionals. And for example, these career discovery programs are fully funded scholarship programs for Bahamians that is available for the coming year. So please bring suitable candidates to our attention, the educational outreach, the courses, the studios, and really this is trying to explain how the connections and connectivities, whether physical or virtual in some way, become very important in terms of the next phase of development of the project. We need to also learn from very specific examples. So we are very keen to understand what may be the types of projects that we need to realize more quickly on site. For example, on some of the family islands, whether these are schools, clinics, residential developments, the whole idea of what constitutes new kinds of public spaces for the citizens of those islands that really helps also towards economic development becomes critical. So this is a project that has been built by one of our recent Loeb Fellows at the Graduate School of Design. That's really an example of a school that has been built for a community. Another school that's been built in Burkina Faso a few years ago. Just showing you these to basically demonstrate that actually at a very community level we can realize some projects. And I think these projects are going to be very important. They're going to be very aspirational. They're going to be very critical to realize them sooner rather than later so that the local community actually also see that. This just gives you a certain sense of the timetable. Obviously, I won't go through that. We can discuss that more later on during the day to tell you who the team are that are involved with this particular project. And to just say that in terms of the organization of the day, this should be very clear. But many people have talked today about the concept of sustainable development. Because we're called the Graduate School of Design, we don't see sustainable development as something that's really dealing solely with the physical built environment. Today, you see that to talk about sustainability, we really need to understand economic development, the question of marine life, the understanding of educational needs, the question of governance and the relationship between local government and really state government. And finally, this really significant concept of the social cultural, that really the project of dealing with sustainable development on one level is a cultural issue. We can't just deal with progress if we just see progress as something which is really with the importation of new ideas and not really the reflection and transformation of what we have inherited and really valuing and cherishing those. So that's really the idea that today we will learn primarily the focus being on local experts, but really creating this sense of teamwork, of collaboration with our moderators from Harvard, who will be engaging the speakers, but also engaging the rest of us during the rest of the day. I hope that you find this forum productive. Please, please, please view it as something which is very informal. It is supposed to be a think tank, a kind of brainstorming session. with all of us. And really, thank you all very much again for being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're a little behind time, but we'd like to thank all of our speakers from the morning. This is to be the last you'll hear from me until late this afternoon. But I would like to thank all of you for your attention. I hope you have been inspired and ready to participate in this incredible forum. So we're going to take a 15-minute break. So we expect you all back by about 10 past, a little less than 15 minutes. 10 past 10, so we have refreshments outside. Please go outside and enter through the side door. So you can exit this way and go around the registration table. Thank you all. Sorry? And please come back. You're all required to come back. Thank you.